And now we would welcome our next presenter, and she is Victoria Olsson. Who is Senior Sustainability Manager of Arla Foods. And hi, Victoria, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you so much for joining us and adding value in our event. And I'll introduce you to our audience, and then you can start your presentation afterwards, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is Victoria Olson, and she is a sustainability professional with more than 15 years of experience within large companies, both global and Swedish. Main engagement within transportation, packaging, production, and the commercialization of sustainability. Now focusing on the dairy industry value chain from farm to consumer. So she's going to speak on climate changes influencing the dairy industry and how it's been tackled. So it would be an interesting session. So let's, Victoria, you can start your presentation now.
Yes. I will share my screen.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Um, can you see it now?
Yes.
Does it look better now?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it better now. So thank you so much for joining us, and you can start your presentation. Good luck. Stage is all yours.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm very happy to be joining this session and to tell you a bit more about Arla's sustainability journey, and especially on our climate checks and how we calculate climate emissions on farm. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the results that we have got so far, and also what we will be focusing on from now on. But to put this in a context, I would like to start with just introducing Arla in 2 slides. I don't know how familiar you are with Arla, but we are farmer owned, so we are owned by almost 9,000 farmers in 7 different countries, and I will show you the countries on the next slide. We are then the 4th largest dairy company in the world, and we do have about 20,000 colleagues. We are also the largest organic dairy producer in the world, and I will also get back to organic a bit later in my presentation. Yeah, and we also have global brands like the Arla, the Buttercup Arla, and also Puck, Castello, and Lupac. So those are a few examples of our brands, but of course we also have many local brands in different countries. So as I said, we do have our owners in 7 countries, and those you can see on the map here, but mainly Denmark, Sweden, UK, and Germany, and also some in Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. And we produced about, our owners produced about 13.6 billion kilos of milk last year. So this is our vision, to create the future dairy, to bring health and inspiration to the world naturally. And also our mission is very important, and something that we focus on every day is of course to secure the highest value for our farmers' milk, while still creating opportunities for the growth. And now I will jump right into our sustainability journey. Starting with our overall targets. So you can also see where the climate checks and the climate work comes in to our strategy and plans. So we do have climate targets, science-based targets, and we just launched our new science-based target, which is in line with the 1.5 degree target, which means that we have a reduction target of 63% in scope 1 and 2, and I will show you on the next slide what that covers. And also on a farm level, we do have a 30% reduction target. It's also part of our science-based target. We're also looking at 100% green electricity in EU. And I am working in Sweden and mostly focusing on the Swedish market. And in Sweden, we are already purchasing green electricity for the dairies, for example. We also have a net zero target for 2050, and that differs a little bit between markets. So in Sweden, we do have the carbon net zero target for 2045, because that's the Swedish national target. And in the same way, we do have 2035 in Finland, because Finland has the national target of 2035. We are also, of course, working with packaging. So we have two targets related to packaging. And the first one is to achieve 100% recyclable packaging on the market where the product is sold. Because, of course, the different markets differ a lot when it comes to possibilities to recycle. And, of course, it develops all the time. But it's important that we look at the local circumstances. And also another packaging target of reducing the virgin fossil plastic to zero. And we are quite far away from that today. I think we do have about 85% or 84% fossil plastic. Out of the plastic, of course, we have mainly fiber and paper, cardboard packaging. But we, of course, have a lot of work to do in that area. And then, of course, food waste. And that is our internal food waste throughout the value chain. And I will also get back to how we inspire consumers to reduce their food waste. And also, of course, please put your questions in the chat, and I will answer them later. So the main change that we just communicated a few weeks ago is that we are now changing our internal target, science-based target, from 30% in scope 1 and 2 to 63% to be in line with the 1.5 target. And that covers the production sites, offices, and also our own trucks. So how do we do this then? Well, we do have our sustainability strategy, and it is centered around the two different areas of stronger planet and stronger people. And today I'm going to talk about the stronger planet part, but it does have two different parts of it. And you can also see how the different parts are related to the UN sustainability goals. We also, of course, have a code of conduct, and that, of course, is through the value chain valid. And to give you also a bit of the context, this is then Arla Sweden sustainability plan for this year. And of course, this is a lot similar to the global Arla sustainability plan, just a few differences. So before I jump into the farm section, I just want to highlight a few other areas for you to get the context. So in production, as I said, we are already purchasing 100% renewable electricity, mainly from hydropower. In Sweden, we do have the deregulated market where we can choose what type of electricity we buy. And then, of course, we're working with energy efficiency by making feasibility studies. We do have 12 dairies in Sweden, I would say. And of course, we want to continue the transition to fossil-free. So we are changing the heating in several of the sites to go more fossil-free and install new boilers like we're going to do soon in our dairy in Jönköping. We will install a new biofuel boiler to replace fossil fuel. And by that, we will then reduce CO2 emissions and also go fossil free. Because fossil free is an important target in Sweden, and we do have a national initiative about fossil free Sweden. And then we do have the packaging. I will get back to that on the next slide. And logistics. So in Sweden, we do already have 100% fossil-free transports. They are mainly running on HVO and RME, and also biogas. And biogas is something that we would like to develop further. We already have about 80 plus farmers contributing to biogas production by leaving their manure to production, or they have their own biogas production plants. But this is something that we want to develop because it creates this great circularity, and something we will look into more during this year. And then we also have electric trucks. We got our first electric distribution truck about a year ago, and now we're getting our second one. The first one was in the Gothenburg area, and the second one will be in Stockholm. So yeah, so that's also an area where we want to improve. And then, of course, we need to have a dialogue on sustainability with our customers and also, of course, the consumers. And we'll get back to that as well. Just a few words on packaging. We are looking at the two different areas, as I said, related to the targets. We have the better plastic and we have less plastic. So better plastic could be recycled plastic, for example. Our PET is one example, but then we also have the challenge of making that actually recyclable, because we don't have all the systems in place to recycle. We have the bottles, the rPET bottles, we can recycle those, but not maybe other types of packaging. And then, of course, also bio-based plastic. And that is an area that is also developing, as you might know. And we're looking into different solutions to use more bio-based instead of fossil to reach our target. But then it is, of course, even better if we can do less plastic so that we can use other materials, renewable materials, like fiber. We do have today some mixed materials where we replace a part of the plastic with fiber, and then we can reduce the content of plastic. But it would be, of course, great if we could reduce or actually eliminate the plastic and to use more fiber-based packaging. But of course, we need to look at food safety, and of course, the most important task for the packaging is to actually keep the food fresh, so that yeah, we can never forget. And recyclability, as I said. So just, I'm not going to go through all of these, of course, but just to give you some examples of how we're working with packaging, like we do have different types of solutions where we work with a sleeve so that we can separate packaging in different materials. So the butter at the bottom, the Bregott butter, actually now has a removable sleeve. It didn't before, it was glued together before, but now you can actually remove the sleeve, and then you can sort that as paper packaging, and you can sort the rest as plastic packaging, which then increases recyclability. And then, of course, we can also work with like pure plastic reductions. like in the buckets where you see on top. And of course, the bucket gets lighter, but it still does the job, so to say. And we're also working on getting our aluminum cans in the Swedish deposit system, because before, dairy products were not allowed in the deposit system, but now they are, so we are phasing those into that. And to inspire consumers around food waste, we do have different initiatives. So for consumers, we do have the label best before, often good after, to encourage people to actually taste and smell the products before throwing it away. So it's not like a magic date when it's like best before. It could also be good a few days after. And that we launched a few years ago, and it has been very well received by consumers. And we also do have the one in the middle is empty your fridge. So that's like a tool on our website where you can put in ingredients, and then you can get different recipes, what you can cook by your ingredients that you might have at home, also to reduce food waste. And then for our customers, we do have Arla deals, which is a tool where you can buy products cheaper that are about to expire. So if you log into this system as a customer, you can see, okay, what products do we offer today in this system? So that differs day to day. That's like, it has been very well received as well by customers. So let's dive into the climate checks and advisory. I'm going to tell you more about what climate checks actually are and what the advisory means. But just also, I always want to put in this slide because sometimes we tend to forget the positive contribution of farms. We are usually talking a lot about how we can lower our carbon footprint, but also to remind ourselves all the good aspects of dairy production. Yes, so we do have our quality program. It's an internal quality program, Arla, and it covers food safety, animal welfare, and also climate and environment, and also people, like working conditions, for example. We, of course, have different audits, external, internal, and also spot checks that we perform. And the climate checks process is part of our quality program. And the climate checks is performed by the farmers annually, and they also get a little bit more paid for their milk to do that. And it's mandatory for organic farmers. So the process of the climate check, well, it starts with a farmer submitting a self-assessment based on the latest financial year. And this is done, as I said, once a year. And this survey and self-assessment, it consists of more than 200 questions. And this data is then transferred into our Arla quality program platform. And then an external advisor, expert, books a meeting with the farmer to validate the data against databases and comparison groups to make sure that they got all the questions correct and that they filled out the numbers in a correct way. And these meetings are supposed to be physical, but due to the pandemic, they have been also digital. The advisor validates the numbers, and they also ask for documentation if they need to. And they also emphasize the farmer's individual strengths. And they also point out about 2 to 3 areas where there is room for improvement. And every farmer will have an advisory meeting where the farmer gets the individual advice basis on the farmer's data. And then they can see in this system the overall carbon footprint result and the KPIs, like the individual KPIs for this farm. Yes. And this method is based on ISO 14044 for LCA, and it does follow the IDF's guidelines for carbon footprint methodology. And also the methods that we use for emission calculations from animals, manure, and soils are based on IPCC. So going into more the survey, as I said, it has more than 200 farm questions. And there are plenty of questions about the herd and what type of housing, and quite many questions about feed production, and both homegrown and purchased feed. So there are like 39 different options for purchased feed available, but a typical farm only uses approximately 5 different feed types. And then there are also some questions about how the manure is stored and the use of fertilizers and use of electricity. What type of electricity do they buy? Do they buy certificates? Some of them also produce their own electricity by solar panels, for example. And also what kind of fuels they're using for their machines, if there are diesel or something else. So all of this data goes in to the system. So as you can see, more than 200 farm questions. And in the first round, we had about 8,000 farmers participating. So 8,000 times 223 gives us a lot of data to work with. So I would like to share with you some initial learnings from the first year. So that is 2020. And we are right now processing the 2021 data. And we have also started like round 3. But from the first round, I'm going to show you some results. So these are the results. So CE, Central Europe, Denmark, UK, and Sweden. And the important findings you can read to the right, but is the variation within a country is greater than the variation between countries. That's a very important finding. Yeah, and I also want to clarify that in the headline it says 1.15 kilos of CO2e emissions by kilo milk, and that includes emissions from peat soils. And in the chart below, it is without the peat soils. So that's why the average is like higher than what you actually see in the charts. But the peat soils are quite local issues. So if we remove them, we can see better how they actually perform. Central Europe has the largest variation between the high and low, and Sweden has the smallest difference, but the difference is not very big. It's 0.28 and 0.23. And what we also can see is that some farms in all Arla countries are climate efficient. And we also have farms in all Arla countries that have reduction potential. And it cannot be repeated enough times how much we have already achieved. And we also have to remember that a lot of work has been done already, so that we don't see this as a start of something, because this is a work that has been going on for many, many years. The difference now is that we can actually measure it in a much better way and get more data for further measures. So since 1990, the Arla farmers, they have reduced their emissions per kilo milk by 22%. And as I said, a lot of farmers participated in the first round and even more in the second round. And if we dive into a little bit what causes the on-farm emissions, so this is global Arla data. The major part is methane from digestion, and then comes feed. Of course, it matters where the feed comes from and how it is produced. Then we also have manure management, and also, as I said, peat soils and energy production, and then others. So we have identified out of these areas what we call the big five. And these 5 levers, they will get us 1/3 of the way to 30% reduction in 2030. So the 5 different areas are feed efficiency, to make sure that we get as much milk as possible from the feed output. Also protein efficiency, to reduce the protein surplus in the feed. Of course, healthy cows. Healthy cows produce more milk, and that's why we also get a lower carbon footprint per kilo of milk, which is great that this really is related. And fertilizer use, to also reduce the nitrogen surplus from feed production, and also land use. And if we look at this as a whole, we do have the big 5 that I just showed you, and then we also have the other areas of sustainable feed, that is more like how the sustainable feed is produced. We also have the green electricity, and that's why we have the target on that. Biogas, I have also mentioned. We're looking into carbon sequestration. There is no clear method how to calculate this yet. And also the peat soils, like we need to also figure out how we can handle the peat soils in a good way. Breeding is important, of course, and also the fertilizers. Then we do have 2 areas that we're also looking into: feed additives and also biochar. So we do have many different areas to look into more, and of course work is already going on, but it is now very helpful for us to have this data showing where we should put our efforts. And when it comes to the big 5, we are actually performing pilots on 3 of them. The first ones, the protein efficiency, feed efficiency, and also animal robustness. Those are areas that we're looking into this year. So selected farms from all areas. It's not just like organic, it's all farms are looking into this. And we also get advisory support. We evaluate the results. We also have sessions with the farmers to educate and also to communicate the outcome from this. Yeah, I'm just gonna say a few words about organic. As I said, we are the world's largest producer of organic milk, and the weigh in Sweden, organic is about 17%. And we are now looking into regenerative farming, as many other, of course, dairy companies are. And we're looking at biodiversity and soil health. And therefore, we have, from the beginning of this year, we have increased our ambitions when it comes to organic. So we have added a few extra criteria. In Sweden, we do have the KRAV label, which is the organic label. And yeah, so we are, of course, complying with that. But we also wanted to add more criteria. So this is mandatory for all our organic farmers. So what they now need to do is to also annually look at biodiversity. So that works a little bit like the climate checks, where they go through like a questionnaire and they answer questions on biodiversity, so that we can actually map out what it looks like today. And out of that, we can then implement different measures and activities to improve biodiversity even more. We also do the same thing when it comes to soil health. So measure soil health is in two parts. It's both like measure the actual soil health by sending it to a lab, but also make a self-assessment on soil health to actually look at the soil, smell, and see what it looks like, and then also report this into the system. On climate, as I said, green electricity is the target. Green electricity in organic is already a requirement in Sweden, but not in all markets. Then climate checks, also mandatory. And then we do have a bit tougher target on CO2 reduction within organic. So the target is to reach 30% decrease by 2028 instead of 2030. And then also looking into feed, how to reduce CO2 emissions when it comes to feed. And we also have a few new criteria when it comes to animal welfare. And these are, the brushes are new in Sweden, but the other ones are already mandatory, at least the grazing and the space. Yes, so that was it. And you're also welcome to contact me if you have any questions on this.
Hi, Victoria. Thank you so much for your wonderful and informative session. And I hope everyone has enjoyed your session. We have a question from our audience. Okay. So
I think I have maybe answered the first question, the CO2 footprint.
yeah, that's right.
Like how we're working with that. I think maybe that question was before I talked about that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Victoria. And we have one more question for you. What is the main concept of inspiration behind Arla Gardens?
Sorry, what was the question again?
What is the main concept of inspiration behind Arla Garden?
Our quality program.
Okay, great. And
That's just a few words on that. We developed this quality program because we wanted a program to collect all the requirements within the different areas, and also to be able to follow this up internally and also between the different countries. So it's very valuable to collect data on animal welfare, for example, because then we can also compare this between the markets and also within the countries. So that is very helpful for us.
okay, and how Arla is managing with the government regulatory requirements? Do you make your own regulations or follow federal affairs?
Both, I would say.
Okay.
So we do have, we have a lot of discussions with like the government, and we work closely together with a lot of the politicians that could affect us in this work. But of course, we also need to comply with legislation, and so there's a mix. And then we are also adding requirements ourselves, like the organic requirements that I talked to at the end. So there's a mix of regulatory demands and also our own.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions. And thank you so much for your perceptive presentation and for participating so effectively. We are delighted for your time and effort you took to share your thoughts and expertise with us. And I'll ask the audience that if someone is having any question, they can still ask in the QA session or in the chat session, and Victoria is here to answer our questions. So
Yeah,
thank you so much, Victoria. Looking forward to work again with you. Have a great day.
thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay.